Well, hello! Welcome back to my channel. Just Shauna here to talk about some friggin' Shadow and Bone. This is not necessarily going to be a review. I mean, I guess technically, but I'm not going to be all like critical analysis. Blah. These are just my thoughts on the first season, which I marathoned yesterday, the day it came out. So you all know, if you're new here and you don't know, I recently reread the trilogy with Jessie May and Leanna's Library, and we did some live shows, one on each of our channels as we read through it, and I felt very lukewarm. And I couldn't remember, I read the series first in 2016, so several years ago. And I read Six of Crows about a year after I read the Grisha trilogy, I think, if I remember correctly. And I liked Six of Crows, I liked the duology, but I remembered that I finished that duology and in my head felt like I might have liked the trilogy better. I don't know. Because while I enjoyed Six of Crows, I didn't dislike it by any means. I don't remember what I rated them, but I liked them. But the plot just was all over the place for me, and it got frustrating at points. I really liked the characters and the dynamics between the characters and all of that. But yeah, just what was happening in the plot, I was getting like, oh my god, can we like freaking do this shit already? So I do want to give that a reread, I think, at some point, but I unhauled those books. And then I bought the Grisha trilogy because I don't think I owned it at the time. And upon rereading it, I'm going to be unhauling it as well. So, I watched the show though, and I said in our last live show, which was that on Jesse's channel? I think it was on Jesse's channel. I said then that I could very easily see me enjoying the show more than the books if they did it well, in my opinion. And let me tell ya, they freaking did, because I like the show so much more than the books. I'm so sorry to everyone who loves the books, and to Leigh Bardugo, you know, you did a good job, but it just wasn't for me. Frickin' so many things. Okay, the characters. Mal, first of all, let's start there, because if you watch those live shows, you know how I feel about Mal in the books. I do not like him. I don't buy the romance in general. We were friends, we were childhood friends. Okay, that's it. Like I saw no foundation for this epic romance between the two of them. So later in the book series, when it's like, I just can't be without you, I was like, why? You've been nothing but like moody and morose together this whole time. Like that's all I've seen of you guys, is you being like mad and like grumpy pants and pissy about shit, and like no personality with each other, no chemistry with each other. So I just didn't buy the romance in general. And then specifically with Mal, he was possessive and jealous and kind of a dick, and he felt so entitled to Alina, and it made me lose my shit in the books. There's a couple parts in particular where I just wanted to wring his neck through the pages, because I'm just like, dude, what? That's not romantic. That's not cute. I don't love it. I didn't ship her with the Darkling either in the books. I didn't feel any chemistry there either. I didn't ever buy that as an option. She was like drawn to him or whatever, but I just never felt any kind of way like, oh, she should be with him instead. And then also Alina just was kind of boring in the books. I felt like she didn't really have much of a personality. She was just moody and morose and grumping around, being like, meh, my life sucks. And I don't know, you know what I mean? We didn't see much other than her, because we're in her head the whole time. And so we don't see much other than her just overthinking everything all the time, and like, oh my god, this and that, and like being sad and like emo constantly. So I just didn't really care about her as a character. I didn't like Mal as a character. The Darkling was kind of whatever. The romance options I didn't feel in any real capacity. So I just felt like very lukewarm about the series. And like I said, I haven't reread Six of Crows, but oh my god, the show just did such a great job. I totally ship Mal and Alina. Oh my good God, love them together. So much fun, so much chemistry. We got to see them laughing together. We got to see them, we saw a foundation for them feeling like they love each other as more than just friends. We saw that they're childhood friends, and we saw some flashbacks to them being little kids and doing all this stuff together, like several of them. So we had that foundation. But then in the present time too, we saw them interacting a lot more together before they were ripped apart. And then we are seeing basically from many perspectives. So we're seeing Alina at the palace doing her shit, and we're seeing Mal doing his thing, going to hunt the stag, and like his letters to her we're hearing, her letters to him. Like, there was just so much more to fill that relationship up for me to buy it. And I did, and I was just so happy. And Mal wasn't an entitled, jealous dick. And they cut that whole bit out where he shows up at the palace and is like, man, I'm mad at you. And luckily in the book, that did only last like a day. And in the pages itself, it was like a few pages before he kind of like came around. But we just skipped over that entirely. And then when she later was going to tell him, like, hey, when I was at the palace, some stuff happened. Like, I hardcore made out with Kirigan. He cut her off and was like, you don't owe me an explanation. And I was like, oh my God, thank you. Fucking thank you. Oh my Jesus. Because she didn't owe him an explanation. They weren't together at that time. You know what I mean? And like, he had been with other chicks and flirted with chicks all the time and whatever. So oh my God, I just loved that moment. I was like, thank you, Lord, whoever made this choice. I don't know who it was, but I really appreciate them. And also, in the show, while I still didn't ship Alina with General Kirigan, because I had knowledge as I'm watching it of who he really is and what he's really about, so like, obviously I'm not gonna want her to be with him, because I know he's like the big bad. But I could see people who don't know, who haven't read the books, I could see people shipping her with him, and like, I get it. I would understand in the show, because their chemistry was really great together. We were seeing that built up. Again, like, we were seeing them smiling together and laughing together and sharing things together. And then the makeout scene was real hot. And that's like, I get why you would want her to be with him potentially before knowing who he really is and what he's really about, obviously. And Alina was so fun in the show. Again, we get to see her laughing and kicking it with Genya and smiling and enjoying herself and having a fucking personality. Her dialogue with people was so much more lively and dynamic and just so much better. Oh my God, the casting was just so great, and the actors, I think, did such a great job. Again, Six of Crows, I can't really speak to the characters' like portrayal because I don't quite remember them from the books. I feel like Jesper was like more vivacious and stuff in the show than from what I remember, but it's been several years since I read that duology, so don't quote me on that. He was great though, oh my God. And I just really loved how they integrated the Six of Crows crew with this storyline. I was so unsure of what they were going to do. I mean, we all were. We didn't know what they were going to do. I didn't know if they were going to be doing like different timelines and showing us Six of Crows at a different time and that crew, or if, like, I didn't know. I had no idea what they were going to do. I didn't realize that they were going to like do full-on crossover and have them meet and have the Six of Crows crew involved with the plot from the Grisha trilogy. And it's just like all of my wildest fan fiction dreams came true. And I just feel like it was done really well. I enjoyed it. I feel like there's probably going to be some people who are purists, like plot purists and timeline purists, who aren't going to like it. But I think it was really fun. And I think it was done really well, and it made sense. Like, they just weaved it in really effortlessly, in my opinion, how they played a part and how they weaved in and out and whatever. And it just made sense. It didn't feel forced to me anyway. Maybe just because I was, like I said, living my like best fan fiction dreams with all of that. Like the ending, when they're all on the skiff and it's like, oh, and Inej and Zoya and oh my God, it was just all so very great. I loved it. I had a great time with it. The only casting choice that I didn't personally love was the Apparat. I think because I just imagined him in my head as some Rasputin-like figure with like this long scraggly beard and like this kind of hunched over old man. And he was like an older guy, but I don't know, I didn't envision him looking like that. So I was slightly disappointed with that casting choice. But everyone else I felt like was really great. And I just had a fun time. And I'm so curious to see what they're going to do with it moving forward. And then one thing that it just like raised a question for me of like, why did they do this? Because in the book series, there's like tension between these different countries and they don't necessarily love people from these other countries because like you guys have Grisha and we hate Grisha and whatever. Like the Fjerdans, they like hate Grisha and whatever. But there's not so much racial tension in the books necessarily. I don't remember it anyway. I mean, I did just reread them, but it's not like such a big thing that we harp on. As in the show, they ramped up the racism a fair amount, like Alina being half Shu is the racial category she is, the ethnicity. And it's like mentioned so many times and people being shitty because she's Shu and not wanting to serve her food because she's half Shu and calling her names and whatever. And I'm not sure why they would have done that other than the only thing I could think of, and it's kind of like, okay, is that the actress herself is half white and I could see some people, I mean, to me, she looks clearly not fully white, but I could see some people looking at her and like her being white passing. So I feel like maybe they wanted to really drive the point home that, hey, our main character isn't fully white, so here's some racism so you get it. You know, that's the only thing I can think of, really. And I don't know that that's, you know, a great reason to add a bunch of racism into the story that didn't have that in the first place. So I don't know. That was kind of a choice a bit that just raised a few questions. Why did we do this? You know, it wasn't like every scene or anything like that, but it was definitely more than is in the books. So yeah, I'm very curious to see what they're going to do with it moving forward. We were talking about this in our little group chat. Jesse and Leanna and I were still obviously chatting about the show now. And like Leanna was posing that question too of like, how are they going to work it in? Like moving forward with like book 2, because now we're caught up with the Six of Crows, like the start of that duology, we're caught up with that timeline. So like, are they just going to be doing their thing over here while Mal and Alina are doing their thing from book 2? Like, how's that all going to work, you know? And yeah, I'm really curious. But if this first season is any indication, then I trust them. However they're going to weave it in together or not, whatever they're going to do with it. I think it was a really great adaptation. I like it better than the books. And I'm very excited to see what they continue to do with it. Let me know your thoughts down below if you've seen it. I mean, I hope you didn't just watch this whole thing. If you haven't seen it, I guess I didn't spoil a whole bunch of shit though. I just kind of vaguely talked about it, but yeah, let me know though if you have any thoughts, what they are in the comments below. And as always, thank you so much for your time. Hope you guys have a wonderful day and I will talk to you later. Bye-bye.